lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and with me, I got my good pal Eli, fellow Turtle fan in the house. You know us from doing all of our Turtle episodes that we do together. And today we have a legend in the house. We got Mr. AC Farley here, and we're going to talk his career, Turtles, all that good stuff. Super happy to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I've never done this before.
I know I was trying to see if there was any other one, so I'm happy that I got the first. So very stoked to talk with you. I always like to ask people, especially the first time that I have them on the channel, kind of what started your love for comic books and art.
My uncle Junior, he's AC Farley too. The Farleys do that all up and down. They like the name Craig and they like Addison. I didn't get Addison though. Anyway. My uncle Junior lived with us for 5 years while he was saving up money to get married and move his wife to Indianapolis. All my dad's family, his immediate family, most of them moved to Indianapolis from West Virginia because he said that he didn't want to work in a mine. And if you lived where he did, you're either going to work in the mine or you're going to be a guard at the mine. So he wouldn't stay there. So my uncle stayed with us and he liked comics and he was pretty cool. He had a black leather jacket and a red Oldsmobile. He was fun. I'm so glad he lived with us because my dad was not fun, but his brother was. Anyway, he would keep comics under his bed and he told me, now just don't take them. I'll give them to you when I'm done with them because he had to read them first, So I was okay. And it also made me want to read because I was wondering what the heck are these people saying? And me and my brother, we were out playing in a driveway one day and we put gravel in that red Oldsmobile gas tank. We didn't know. We saw people doing stuff with the gas cap. So we were like, put some gravel in there, I guess. He didn't even get mad. He did not get mad at us. He made us reach in there to pull it out. He had to take the whole tank off the car to get that out.
What kind of comics was he reading back then?
Superman. He liked World's Finest. He was a DC guy for sure. Just all DC titles. So I read. I looked at the pictures and all that until I could read it. He also, my mom and dad. My mom was a Pentecostal preacher's daughter. She didn't believe in anything except the Lord. We weren't allowed to have a record player. A lot of stuff. My uncle. He had a record player, so that was good. We got to listen to some of his records. He had some pretty crazy records. One that I still remember is Jimmy Driftwood was the name of this guy. And he was singing the Battle of New Orleans, stuff like that. Oh, they're just funny songs. They're fun.
Which comics did you gravitate towards of the ones that your uncle had? Like which ones stood out the most to you?
I loved Kurt Russell and George Klein together. And Murphy Anderson too. I think a lot of people don't even know George Klein was in there busy on that stuff, but he did some really good inks over Kurt Swan. I like that stuff. Of course I liked Batman. I like Joe Kubert a lot. Probably about like same amount of love for all of them, but I really like Kubert and Frazetta. And
Rosetta, yeah. Oh yeah.
I feel like I can see a little Frazetta influence in the way your art went for a while, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started trying to do artwork, I was it was the only thing I was getting any praise for. I wasn't getting any love for anything. Mostly I was getting my dad shaking his finger and yelling at me. And I'd even go to bed at night trying to go to sleep, and I would hear him holler at me in my sleep, sort of, while I was falling asleep. Well, I just transitioned away from the question, I think.
Oh, no, I think we're transitioning into the art side of the question now.
Yeah. No, we were just talking about, or Eli was saying how much he can see. Like he sees like Frazetta in your work.
Oh, that's so nice to say. I all I try to do when I'm drawing is I want to feel like I'm doing it. I'm pulling from everywhere, I'm pulling from Kubert, Frazetta, any art I ever saw that I liked. I'm trying to filter all that back through me and have something that's my hand did come out.
I know that you're also a huge fan of 2001. Did you see that when it came out, and did that then inspire your vision and then the move into art as well?
It knocked me out as far as the design went, and I've been trying to see anybody beat that. I haven't seen it yet.
No.
Especially not, if you just want to go, okay, just go from before CGI and then look backward. Find something like that. It was like a generational leap already, and it still holds up.
I was listening to a podcast where they said science fiction died when 2001 came out because you could do no better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, but then look, here came somebody else who made a big mishmash and made something even as cool as Star Wars.
So you were an artist in the military, I saw. So were you like synthesizing all these influences, and then you got into the military, and that was like maybe your first paid job for art?
It was. I had done some stuff, this and that while I was in high school. The art teacher would get offers for people to do some art. So I went with this one guy one time to draw superheroes on jeans for an afternoon.
Nice.
That's cool.
But yeah, that was my first real assignment as an artist. And it was lucky for me. There was a professional freelance artist that was working there at the time. He was going through a divorce, so he got this job from the chief of the branch was his buddy from back when. So he got this job working at the military intelligence training aid school where I worked. Oh, I was working for MI, by the way. I know everyone thinks that's funny, but I was and drawing cartoons all the time for instructors.
That's crazy. I mean, I also read like you needed like top secret SI clearance too. Like that's insane.
Yeah, I had a special intelligence clearance because they keep people, it's rings within rings, security. So the center doesn't know what the outside is doing. But if you have special intelligence, you can know the various levels because you have to know the info to do the art for them. I didn't ever see anything really super secret though. Stuff like they were cartoons about things like communications, imitation, things like that. And they liked this. They had an Old Crow logo that they liked because there's an Old Crows club. It's a electronic warfare club.
Wow.
So they like to see crows on stuff. I was always adding a crow in. That one I just mentioned, that imitative communications, I remember that cartoon. There's a crow, he's ducked down behind a bush and he's doing some radio contact with the enemy.
Oh, what year was that? Or like what era was that when you were?
I was there from 75 to 78. You had to sign up for 3 years to get in the military intelligence branch. There was a captain at that training or at that base that really liked me, one of the instructors. He was going to be stationed in Belgium. He wanted me to go with him and his wife. And he said, there's a gatehouse at this place I'm living. And he goes, it's like a whole house. You can live there. And I was about to go, but they said I'd have to sign up for 3 years again. And then there was no guarantee I wouldn't get sent to Turkey for a year. And you can't take your family there. So I was like, no. I got out. My plan was to go to school. I had asked my dad to help me. That's another reason I joined the Army, because I wanted to go to school. I asked my dad to help me with school, and he went, no, just like that. Just like that. It wasn't a discussion. It was like, no. You're talking about a guy that went to 3rd grade in a one-room schoolhouse up in the mountains in West Virginia. He didn't put all that much faith in education. And some of that rubbed off on me too. I only went for 1 semester. And then I was like, hey, I was working before I came to this school. I'm just going to go work. I got some jobs doing tech illustration. Did a lot of that in Army too. Actually, tech illustration is what saving my bacon last few years, for actually the last 14 years. And I like it because I like a lot of stuff, and I like to spread out my interest. I really like working with scientists and engineers. You feel like you're really doing something that's, I don't want to make it sound like doing comics doesn't help people, because I know it does. And, I didn't really know that for a while, but I really get it now. And I think back to me and my uncle, comics are real important. And I'm feeling differently, as I'm getting older. But I still love this tech work too. It's a giant payoff. I have to open CAD files sometimes that are like 3 terabytes size. It takes them like a day and a half to open. And then I have to try working it. You can't, once it's open, here's the thing, you can't touch it, because if I do anything to it, it'll crash. So I have to save it real quick. Anyway, whenever I can get people's eyes glazed over, start talking about 3D.
How do you, so what goes into the tech illustration? I'm kind of curious about that, because I've never really gotten to talk to anybody that does that kind of work.
Get the CAD thought, it's manufacturing CAD, and they do a lot with it. Like when you see a car ad on TV, that's probably not the car. That's probably the last thing they do with the manufacturing CAD is that ad. That's what I do. I take everything that the writers were going to do anyway, and the manufacturing CAD, and I make one more last use out of it. So it's like what I do is like the culmination of probably thousands of people who worked on that car, or what that computer for me anyway. So take that file, I convert it from CAD to 3D. There's a difference. 3D can be very painterly and CAD cannot. Also CAD's heavy weight. I make it a lot lightweight, more lightweight, and I make it so I can use it easily in a 3D program. And I use this old 3D program called Electric Image. They used that program on Star Wars, Star Trek. Actually, one of the guys that invented Photoshop was part of working on programming Electric Image. But when I was getting into it, like I got into 3D with Mirage. They had computers there, and that's when what I first was going up there for. I wanted to use those computers. Then when they told me I could have a space at the studio, they also told me, well, they said a couple things. The art store down the street, you can just go down there and buy whatever you want. Just tell them you're from the studio and tell them what you want. And I was like, well, good. I'll try not to abuse that. But they also said, well, Pete told me, hey, buy all the 3D programs you want. And I kind of did do that, but I Electric Image was $8,000 back then. You know what though? It would have been worth it, because I did the first 3D turtle animation, by the way. First 3D model animation. I mean, I did the first 3D turtle.
What was that for?
Just for
Just
a loop at shows, on a screen at shows.
Nice.
And
Very cool.
on the website. I also was the IT guy there. I got the internet going, and I was the only one there that knew what to do with the internet for a long time.
I want to backtrack a little bit. I want to hear, like, how did you end up at Mirage? How do you go from doing stuff in the Army, doing illustration there, and then doing a lot of tech illustration, and now you're working in comic books?
I was in the Army, got out. I kind of knocked around for a year. I just painted stuff or drew stuff. And a friend of mine from the Army job, this lady that was a civilian there, she told me to go check on a job at this place, Sanders Associates. It changed from Sanders Associates over time to Sanders Lockheed, and then now it's BAE Subsystems, which is a British company, but it's still up there grinding out survivability equipment for jet fighter pilots and stuff. I see, how cool is that? I loved that. Loved doing that. And I loved it was for survivability. They were trying to keep people alive. And don't get too mushy. It's because it costs a lot to train a pilot.
Yeah.
Not because they were really, really loving everybody. They're just like, that guy's expensive. We need him back.
You were like a comic retailer too for a minute, right?
Yeah. I did that job up there for about 12 years, I think. And I freelanced a couple of those years, but it wasn't time for me. I did make good use of the year I was trying to freelance. And all I ended up doing was freelancing for the company that I just left. So I was like, well, why am I even doing this? I was trying to learn to paint. Oh, that's what I was going to tell you. When I was really, really young, like with my uncle, I started thinking about trying to draw. But then one day me and my mom were waiting for my dad to come out of work to pick him up. And I said to my mom, hey, when I grow up, I want to work at the place just like my dad. And she went, oh my God, like it was an emergency. Oh my God, no, you have to be a white collar guy. And I started thinking, I don't know. I'm not even in school yet. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is a white collar guy for number one. But I did think, you know what? I want to be a comic artist because I think I can do it as better or maybe as good as these other guys are doing. Just like pure arrogance. I don't know what to call it. Oh, I think now people online, the way they talk about people who are still alive doing art, they're like, it's like the artists are trading cards. And it's like, I like this guy. Oh, this guy sucks. And they're saying it right there. What if that guy reads that?
So then how did you meet up with like Kevin or Peter or Jim?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I got laid off from that tech job. I went back there to work and then got laid off. So, and then I thought that the thing that was security, now I was freelancing at night, but the thing that was my security went away. And the thing that I was just doing to make some extra money, now that's all I got. So I just went at it. I remember asking this lady at Bain Books when I got laid off. I called them up and I was doing okay with them doing, jobs at night. But I said, hey, I'm available now for anything. I said, any chance I could get a little more work? And she goes, yeah, maybe if you don't fuck up. And I was like, what did I do? And I was doing Asimov's magazine, stuff like that. And so that was we moved from New Hampshire to Chicopee, Massachusetts to be closer to the publishers. I'm only I know it takes me 2 hours exactly to get to the White Castle in the Bronx. So not that far away. Opened the comic store because my wife kept trying to monetize me. It was her idea. It was not my idea. She's like, we were driving, moving the last of our stuff to Chicopee from New Hampshire. And she has this great idea in the car. Hey, she's like, I'm thinking about all those kids at the art school we ran to. We had an art school for years. She did. I helped with that. And she saw a lot. We had a comics course there. And I got jammed up with every Saturday, like 2 different classes of a bunch of kids. And I even started doing this weird thing where I was separating out the ones that I liked and said be in one class. And then I'd have the other class. There was one very calm class. And the ones I put together, they're all nuts. I would start grinning on the way there to do that because of them. And I still know some of those guys right now. Oh, I love that. I love doing that. But I'm not a teacher. I'm an instructor. So I just say, here's what to do. And then sometimes I was making them do things I wanted to see what would happen. So we're all learning something. So I was at the comic shop and I was working in the comic shop doing illustrations for science fiction books and stuff and games. I was in there one night. It was a Saturday night, real slow, because the science fiction convention that used to be in Boston got upset that they were becoming more of a media convention. And that was a bunch of readership from, that club is from the 30s and maybe earlier. but they have schisms, all these clubs. And anyway, they didn't want to be a media convention, so they moved their convention to right next door to me, in the town next door to me. I was kind of sad because the comic store was making me pay for it at that point. I was still getting it going. I didn't like computers back then. The comic store is where I started liking computers, because I came to understand how I could make the store make money, but that I was going to have to track every penny and every book. I need to know how many books come in here and how many go out. And so we did that. And I got it to pay 5 people about $700 a month to do it. Guys in the neighborhood that, I picked I'm like, hey, you want to work in a comic store? And I did get some nice guys to do it too. That was lucky too. So anyway, I'm in the store. It's this late Saturday night. The convention's going on. I have a painting I want to take over there that I think I can get a couple $1,000 for. I didn't want to sell it. It was a painting I did for me of a Kafka story called Metamorphosis. So it's a painting of this bug in bed, a giant bug in a bed. And I did all kinds of I just did it up, and I tried to make it as unattractive as possible, because I made the composition backwards. So it's leaning over and you're feeling like you're, tipping over. And I also made the colors unattractive as I could, but all that matters with looking at art is the intent. And people aren't always going to do that. So if you go making some ugly stuff, maybe they're just going to go, well, that's ugly. But if you examine the intent, maybe that was the intent. So I'm going to close the store up. I'm thinking about closing early because nobody's coming in there because of that convention. And then this balding, chubby dude comes in and starts looking around. And I've seen this guy before. He comes in, he goes through like my box of $5 game art, and he always took a couple, and he'd buy some books or whatever. He never really said much. Anyway, he's looking around. He wants to buy some game art. And he also is interested in this Metamorphosis painting that's behind me at the counter. And I went, oh, buddy, yeah, I need to sell that, but I need to get a lot of money for that. And he goes, well, how much? And I said, I'm embarrassed to even tell you, walking in off the street, how much I want for that. He goes, well, how much? And I said, the thing is, I would even maybe make a deal, but I need to sell it for the money I need. And so I said, I need $2,000 from this. He goes, I'll buy it. And I went, sure you will. And he goes, can I use a check? And I said, yeah, you can, but you're going to have to wait till it clears and come back and get it. So he writes a check, and I'm looking at it, and I went, oh, okay, no, you can take it. It was Pete. Oh, no. Sold the painting. I didn't have to go over to the convention, and everything was nice. It wasn't long after that, they, like a bunch of guys from the studio came to do a signing at the store. My store got mobbed. One day, Pete came in again later on, and he's like, hey, would you want to do a comic book? And I was like, well, I had actually decided I didn't want to do any comics at that point. I had enough of comics. The store was all comics. I was trying to do, I wanted to paint, so I wanted to paint more,
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, yeah, I'll do a comic. I was thinking it'd probably be good if I did a comic after learning how to do it so long. And so I said, okay. And then I waited for paperwork. And because usually somebody would engage you to do art, they would send you an agreement, maybe a little design brief about what they wanted. And nothing was coming, nothing was coming, nothing was coming. And a month goes by, Pete shows up and he goes, where's the comic? And I'm like, I didn't do any comic, just on your say so. We have to do something here. And he goes, no, just go ahead and do it. So I'm thinking, oh man, I'm feeling friendly with these guys. So I did just go ahead and do it. I had done the shell shock painting already. That was pretty much the first. I didn't get any, they didn't send me any info for that either. So I was kind of already going down a bad road with it. And it wasn't, it was a little bit of all of us being way too jazzed, and artists are running the insane asylum. It was so much fun until it wasn't. And then you're wondering like, oh no. And it's just a bunch of business. And I just every time I was involved in any of it, I'm just thinking like this is like when the Beatles broke up.
No.
Except they all split the money.
Can you talk about your process a little bit? Like you say you're painting all these things. Do you use reference? Do you use brushes? And then when you're making your comics, did you use like quill pens, crow quills, or?
I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I will like for a while I was using nib pens. That's kind of what was probably making me hate comics. Stupid nib pens. I had no way to know back then when I was trying all this stuff. There's no internet, there's no nothing. You just have to read a bunch of books and figure something out. I read all my wife's, my ex's college art books. There's one I really loved, E.H. Gombrich. It says it's the psychology of art, but it's not a psychology book. It's about how humans perceive things. So, a good example was if you show someone a picture of an apple, they will say, you go, what is that? They're probably going to go, that's an apple. Well, it's not an apple. It's a picture of an apple, that kind of thing. Some discussion in the book on how come Egyptians did art the way they did. And he's like, they knew they had a style. It was a style. They knew it didn't look right. They just had the style.
Yeah.
And Greeks too. Things like that. Human perception. And so I love that because that's where I pulled out a lot of tricks to get people either happy or unhappy with what you're showing them, without them even knowing. Ways to help them with looking at a comic even, by way of composition.
What were some of your favorite memories of your time during Mirage? I mean, you did so many iconic covers. I mean, Eli's got the shell shock on his shirt, you have the cover to volume 2, number 1, which is to me is like burned into my brain. The City at War stuff. You did issue 29 and 43. And then you did so many other things over there. I mean, I believe you did the production and maintenance of the licensing style guide too, from what I've read. So what were some of your favorite projects or memories during that time?
I love that memory of Pete coming in the comic store and I didn't know who he was. Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover. I thought that they were both younger. I thought they were both like Kevin's age. And anyway, I love that. And I just love all my memories of being there. I wanted to stay there all my life so bad that's part of what tripped me up. When time came to go, I didn't want to go. So I just lingered. And they had me do some things I didn't want to do. But I loved when we were all going on a motorcycle ride. So much fun. So much fun. And we were gone one time for almost a month. And I figured out something. We'd been on trips before, but they were shorter. You have to leave everybody alone for 3 days till they kind of get used to what's going on, or you're going to get your head bitten off because they get all cranky the first 3 days and then everyone lightens up.
Who would all go on those trips? I know Pete and you and maybe Jim.
Pete and Jim, and I would go a lot. Gary went on that. Was Gary on that California ride? I think he was. Anyway, yeah, it was typically, Pete would buy or run a motorcycle if you didn't have one because he wanted you to go on rides with him. And I don't know if he likes me telling these guys stories or not, but one day we're all at work and Pete comes in and he goes, "Hey, everybody, let's go over to the motorcycle shop." And sometimes we did just go into the motorcycle shop. And we get all the way over there though. He goes, "Pick one, any you want." He goes, don't take it easy on me. Buy the motorcycle you want." That was pretty crazy. just because you need people to ride with you. And then Kevin, I just remember Kevin. I was at the that guy is just full of love. He's just full of love, and he loves art, especially, comics and science fiction and fantasy art. And he also loves artists. His main thing, I think, what's happened that's just really floating his boat is he gets to be the thing he loved from the beginning. I just love that dude. When I saw him at that museum opening, the comics museum opening, I saw him. He was like, we were in the big long room at the top, and he is down at the end of the room. And I got off the elevator and I walk up to there's steps down, and he sees me. He goes over to me, grab me by the back of the head. He's like, give me a big old hug. I was like, yeah, good to see you too, buddy.
Is that the Words and Pictures Museum?
Yeah.
In Northampton? Wow.
He's always seemed like a lot of fun to me. I was disappointing at one part, probably because they weren't, the two of them were having their issues, and Kevin went to start his own company, and he asked me to do some stuff, but then Mirage at the same time is asking me to do stuff. They're like, both places are like, we want to do more stuff now. Paul Jenkins wanted me to do a book with him, but it was all robots. I'd be doing nothing but robots for probably a year or more. And I mean, even me designing the robots, it's still a lot of robots, I was going to get bored. I always tell people, I can do a comic and I can think of a story, but I'm not a writer. I'm going to pick things I either want to draw, or it's stuff that usually it would be like something like I put a train crash in my comic because I want to draw trains. I just made a train disaster happen for my characters to go save people. That's all. Those two things are all I want. I want to draw what I want to draw, and I want someone to save somebody. I like it when they save someone. It's my biggest thing. Superman, whatever. If they're just beating somebody up, I'm not into that. Like that last Batman movie, he was really kicking people's ass at the beginning. I understand. He was vengeant at that point.
Was that the Pioneers era too that you were talking about?
Yeah, what a pain in the ass that was, because people all think because you're with the turtle thing that you're rich too. I had that trademark searched and paid for, and I owned it, but I couldn't afford to protect it. Some seed futures company out in the Southwest have a convention they call Pioneers. They're storing seeds for the future. They thought I was rich, and they thought, here's where we cash in. They wanted to sue me for the trademark on Pioneers, and I was like, but I have the trademark, but it's not worth anything if you can't protect it. Mirage helped me. They got this guy to understand that I am not one of the rich guys, and that I'm not gonna be paying for anything. I just said, I just want us to leave each other alone. I'm doing my thing. And so they changed we want all the money and we want to sue you, and I can do whatever I want with it, but they want like a licensing fee for any toys or anything like a movie happened or anything like that. But I can do comics, and I don't have to give them anything as long as it's comic book. So I still couldn't live with that when that was over, and I just changed the logo, and I changed the name to Recombatants, Team Dragon Fighters. And I wanted it to be Team Dragon Fighters in the first place, but everybody was telling me it's kind of hokey. And I was like, I don't know if I care about that. I've been fooling around with that since I was like 8 years old. I almost don't want to give it to anyone. I almost don't want to share the Dragon Fighters with the world, because they'll think they own it then. You know how people are. Yeah. They'll take my Dragon Head insignia. They're going to want to go around with t-shirts of that and everything. Who will pick me out of the crowd then? After I'm there, where I could actually, maybe that's a good idea. I could be camouflaged anyhow.
And you're working on more of that right now. You're like working on those comics now.
You know, I've been working on a lot is I was going through all my old stuff, and I started thinking, wow, how would I draw this now if I did this now? And so I did a bunch of comics. I have some full-size pages of a lot of comics about wizards and trying to know too much. And I think a lot of it was probably, I think I was thinking about anti-drug sort of promotion. I don't know what to call it. It really was, I just wanted to do wizards. And so I also did a Rush song called Bike Tour and a Snow Dog. Right before I joined the army, I did 3 or 4 pages for that. Didn't do too bad. It's pretty bad though. But I was thinking, wow, that could be interesting and even fun to draw now. So I did some drawings of that. And I was working up a new I didn't do okay sort of a logo too for back when. But I made a new one. I put it up on the Rush fan page to see if anyone would react, and I didn't get a lot of likes, but nobody said, "Hey, we're gonna sue you." So I'm gonna do a book called Deep Background, and I'm just gonna start with some old art like that stuff, and show the old stuff, and then show a few pages of how I would do it now, and then just probably a lot of text too, and just do as many as I feel like I can do before I ran out of old memories this year. But yeah, I want that Recombatants book. I want that. I don't want that to go for nothing. And
Yeah, for sure.
there's 3 issues of it. I stopped working on the 3rd one because I realized that I was trying to fit too much into the 3rd book, and I was ending up with a lot of talking heads. So that 3rd book was supposed to be the, balls out, rage and, fight book, the final conflict of that story arc. And it's just a bunch of talking heads.
2 issues came out through the Mirage.
One. We did 1 issue. We did it right in the comics crash. We were trying to make new comics right during a crash. Mirage was all about do all of them. But I was thinking, what we're doing? Pete and Mike, for their 2/3 of the story arc, they just made up new stuff. I've got this thing I've been fooling around with since I was 8. I don't want to put a stain on it. So I was like, we got the first numbers, and they paid for the books, but that's all it did. And the number 2 numbers were non-existent. So I was just like, I am not wasting money, or I'm not going to put a stink on my IP just for nothing. Number 2s are always bad numbers.
Yeah.
But we were not gonna, and it turned out right. I was right too. 3rd one was just the same. We couldn't get any traction. And that's a funny thing about Mirage and Pete and Kevin. You would think that with the power and visibility that they have, that they could decide they're doing another comic and people would just be right there for it. But they really aren't. And it's work to make a comic happen, no matter what. And we tried. I liked Pete's idea for his comic.
Is that the Stupid Heroes one?
Yeah. And we were all trying to have him, don't please name it Stupid Heroes. But he's like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That sounds pretty goofy, doesn't it? I'm like, okay, I get it. There's some magic can happen.
So do you see yourself like ever going back to those comics and maybe producing them now?
There's the 3 of us would have to do it. I asked Pete if he cared because I've got his characters in my book, and I also have Mike's characters in my book, and I could write them out, but I'd rather not. He didn't care. Pete didn't care. I don't know if Mike would care. I can't for him,
Mhm.
but he probably wouldn't care either. But they're not gonna work on it with me. If that's what you mean. They're not gonna do it.
That was like a shared universe kind of thing too. What was Mike's books called again? Michael Dooney's book?
Xenotech
That's Xenotech.
is a team, and they had alien tech to, like evil. Lots of slender girl characters. Mike loves that.
He's good at it. Could I backtrack for 1 second about your process stuff when you're painting these covers, or maybe specifically the turtle soup one, my favorite Turtles piece of all time, that I ripped out of the '94 calendar and was up on my wall ever since. What kind of size do you work at? Is this a big canvas that you're painting on, or?
It's on masonite. They're on quarter-inch untreated masonite. Those collected book covers are like probably. I have one over there. I can measure it. My daughter has one, and she loaned it to me so I could take a picture of it, which looks pretty funny. I mean, it looks. I don't want to sound like I'm not humble, because I am. I don't think I draw all that great. I don't see really what other people see in it. I just know that I'm making it so that people will like it. And after so long, you start to be really presumptuous when you're just doing art, expecting everyone to like it, And I've been thinking about that lately too. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute, why would you just expect? Well, I don't know, because it happens. Anyway, those paintings are probably like 28 by 30 something. Yeah, they're big. And that's what I wanted to do too. That's why I was really glad to be getting that, to getting to do it. I was getting kind of bummed because I was having to do everything so fast to make money, and the game art and everything. I'm trying to do the best I can do, but I have to do it as like lightning. So I was getting quicker, but I wanted to do larger scale things that I could take to the finish, and still kind of had to work to a schedule that I wish I could have. I'd spend 2 weeks on one. I wish I could have just taken a month to kind of relax into it, but was going to be paying bills doing that.
They look amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, you should definitely be proud of the work that you did with Turtles, your singular like design ethic,
Mhm.
and everything, your view of the Turtles has like a realism, a bulkiness, like something that set it apart from everyone else's. And just like you're saying, Kevin loved these artists, and for us as readers, for myself, I don't want to speak for Ryan, but I think I can.
You
in
can.
this one. Like it was so cool to see all these different interpretations
Mhm.
of these turtles. Once you get a little past the cartoon or whatever was popular at the time, the Mirage book is like the truest interpretation. And then to see that truly like a it's a series, but it's like an anthology, like an underground anthology, because you see all these amazing creators, and then you can
Are
go
they
off
really making a Last Ronin movie, a live action movie?
that looks
Yeah,
crazy. Yeah, I did
just
see
got
it announced.
announced. Yeah.
There's a game and the movie now. Were you around when they were pitching that back in the 80s, or when they were thinking about that in the 80s?
Good question.
Yeah, but they didn't really. I mean, they only really talked about it for the Archie book, really. And then I can't remember them actually. They had some ideas for how to do things, way later. And I remember hearing about that, and I like the Archie stuff I saw about
Yeah,
the
that's cool. The
um
shark, what is it called? The Armagon stuff.
yeah, Armagon, yeah.
Oh
No,
my God. You did some amazing covers even for the Archie books, I
That's
remember.
right.
A threefold one with like these
yep,
hell creatures or something.
yeah. I did I did some I did that, and I did Mutanimals, and a couple other covers that were different books, but they all covers all went together. Pete drew,
Oh yeah.
and
Oh, that's right.
I,
That's right. And
I
you
inked
inked or
them.
something, right? Yeah.
I inked them, but he did it like so small that you don't have a room to move your arm, you know. So I was like, aren't in these little guys.
Oh, and the Turtles source books. Those individual like spot illustrations through the source books.
That's right, dude. You're right. I completely forgot about those. Your art's everywhere in Turtles history.
Lunch boxes.
Yeah, I did. That's the only licensing thing I ever did, the lunchbox. I didn't want to do the multicolored bandanas.
Yeah. And
I
it's just was it just the
was
Turtles 3 one or
3, I think. I
yeah.
was ridiculously hardcore OG Mirage.
I love it.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
I just wanted Mirage.
It's the
Look,
best stuff. It's the
even
It
now,
is. It is the best stuff.
stuff with the turtles now, you know, all kinds of cool stuff happening.
Yeah. Do you ever see yourself wanting to do more work with Turtles in the future?
Um, I don't want to do work for hire stuff though. I want to have an agreement where I don't lose control of the art. But yeah, I do. I want to, and I even think of doing it myself. But I would love to work with somebody that's like a good writer and do something like that, I think. But I'm trouble. I have to tell you. If I get bugged in any way, shape, or form, that may occur. I can't even make myself do it. That's where I'm at right now. I want to do art, whatever it is. I want to be art.
Mhm.
I don't view comics as anything but art, or even this tech work. It's art. They don't like for me to call it art, though, at the tech company, but it is. And I gave myself the job title of artist. Thank you. But yeah, I'll tell you what, I love the Turtles. I love those guys. I have lived with them in my head, and we did some good. We fought some battles, you know, and it's kind of like it's sort of real in my head. I just love those guys. Yeah. So I guess the answer is yes, but then I would disappoint someone trying to get me to do it.
Do you still stay in touch with Pete and Kev? You guys still talk?
Yeah, not very much though. Now and then, Pete and I talk, like we're exchanging on Facebook. I just sent him a bunch of stuff. Um, it took like 4 months for it to get to him. I sent him a, you know, the Zeroid robots. I was going nuts last year. I was buying all kinds of Zeroids and major Mason stuff. I have so much of that stuff now because I had that when I was a kid, but I had like major Matt. I didn't have like a bunch of it. And anyway, last year I was like, the internet can give me all the major Matt Mason stuff I want. And I piled up on it. I lost track of what I was talking about again.
Just chatting. If you still talk to Peter and Kevin, I'll even
yeah.
open it up to like the rest of the crew, Jim and
Mhm.
Dooney and Eric Talbot, or
Online, mostly through Facebook. And it's not there's no reason we aren't all connecting up, like, except that I'm so busted up I don't go anywhere anymore. Yeah, that's the thing too with the I thought, like, this last October, my mood got elevated somehow, and I started to, well, I know one thing. I have problems, and one of them got solved, medical problem. I was able to eat again like a normal human being. Before that, I was just miserable. I didn't want to be around anyone eating because I just felt wretched. But that got cleared up, and I think it elevated my mood, and I was, you know, feeling like, well, I'm able to eat and chew through wood now, and I feel pretty okay. And that's when I was getting busy on those comic projects I was talking about. And then I'm got invited to the con, the 40th anniversary con, and I was ready to go. And even I have a like I have some display stuff like for art fairs and stuff, but I don't have anything really to use like I still don't have a complete installation. So I
Mhm.
wanted to have a couple of things to display art on. But as I got closer to it, I realized I'm having trouble I was trying to do the drawing, and I'm having trouble with that. It's not just about, it's mostly, I have a hard time sitting up for a long time. I don't want to just sit back and draw a sketchbook. I can do that, but you're not getting, it's not like work. I need to sit up and work, I'll do things differently if I'm just sitting. I'll kind of go nuts with and let my hand be. And I'll make some pretty rough hewn looking drawings sometimes. I did a Magnus drawing, and I wanted to try to update him a little bit and just make him look more like a robot fighter than a fashion model. And I made him look roughed up all right, but maybe too rough. And the drawing was rough too. It took me a long time to do it because I kept trying to see into the drawing, and I wasn't getting what I was wanting from it. So
Well,
my memories of Mirage are all good. Wouldn't change anything really. I might like it if when they were trying, you know what, those guys never wanted to run a company. That's not what they were doing. They grew into something, they weren't happy. Time came for to be over. And here's something my dad told me one time. He got really mad at me because we were sitting at our kitchen table trying to eat supper, and a squirrel kept throwing itself at the back screen and on right by the table. So the squirrel is just continuing to jump and bounce off the screen. My dad looks at us and he goes, "Who's been feeding the squirrels?" And if you feed them, they expect to get fed.
Yeah.
Well, that's what was going on at Mirage. There's all these squirrels, and they've been getting fed, but it's time for them to go away. And they just allowed it to happen through attrition, mostly. But everybody was, making an income and needed to figure out other ways to do it. I had things to go back to, like I could have started doing book covers again. I did try doing some stuff for Lego, but Lego didn't understand me at all. I even refused the work because I was like, I don't want to draw characters to look like Legos. I want to draw them to look like comic characters. And, kids will love that. They don't have to look like Legos. So I said, I will find you people to do what you want, but I don't want to do it. And then they go, every time for like over 10 years, about 10 times, they'd say, "Oh no, we love what you do. We want you to do it the way you would do it." And then they would fight me the whole time to get me do Legos. Characters look like Legos. And I was just like, no.
Yeah, crazy. Well,
Yeah.
before
I did stuff for Lego. I'll say never. I'm just kidding.
before I let you go, I just was curious, what are you currently working on? What's on your drawing board? What's on your easel?
That 40th drawing. That
The
40th
40th drawing still?
I'm gonna finish that and give it to Ralph.
It's a great drawing. It's fantastic. If you don't mind, could I show the image that I have, the pencils? Can I throw that up in the video?
Yeah,
All right.
I'll send you a bunch of stuff.
All right, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
There was just one thing that I was actually thinking, man, could that be a cover? Because it's like all there, but it's not the drawing. It's just all the sketches. I was looking at it one day. I took a picture of my sketchbook with all the stuff all over it, and I started seeing ways to make a cover out of it. But and then I went, yeah, people are gonna think you're crazy if you suggest this. So I was like, oh,
I mean, I would love it personally.
I'll send you pictures.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll speak for you, Lexi. I know we're both super grateful that you took some time to chat with us today. It was an extreme pleasure talking with you. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think talking to you guys.
Thank you again.
Eli's the greatest.
He is the greatest for sure.
Well, thanks again, guys. And I'm sure we're gonna be talking to each other one way or another.